Welcome back to another episode of Nightcap. I am your host, B Rich. We have a great and interesting show for you tonight. But before that, let's get into a quick intro. And that was our intro. Welcome back to another episode of Nightcap, where we talk everything relationship based, everything that has to do with men and women. So just come in, unwind, tap in, let us know your takes. Be respectful of everybody's opinion and views, and let's get the conversation started. So on tonight's show, we have a great show. So I don't want to waste your time. We're gonna get right into it. So my icebreaker for tonight is gonna be a question. So for tonight, icebreaker, we have the question: do men and women think differently? And we know on some level men and women do think differently because genetically they're not well genetically we all kind of the same, but what I meant to say, biologically we're not the same. We're like two different, you can say, species at this point. So with that being said, do men and women think differently? I think they think totally differently. I think it's like night and day, or it's like hot and cold. I think men think very logically. Um, Men think logically, rationally. They think things out before moving or before action. And I'm not gonna say women don't think logically, but I think women think emotionally. And that's the key difference between how men and women think. Men think logically, women think emotionally. They gonna put their emotions into everything. They gonna, everything is kind of based, like with a woman, everything is based off how she feels at that moment. However she feels at that moment, that's what you gonna get out of her. So if she feeling one way, that's the answer. That's the energy you gonna get out of her. If she feeling, if she feeling happy, then you gonna get a response that correlates with happy, and it's the same. If she not in the mood, or you know she like moody, or she just not feeling it, then you're gonna get an answer that corresponds with that. I think a lot has to do with a woman biological clock, like monthly. So that has to do with their emotions. That has to do with how they think. So I don't think men and women think alike. I think they think totally different. Now I would say that the same way a woman has a biological clock every month, and that might affect how she thinks. What I will say about men, certain men who, for lack of better term, think with not this head but their other head, certain men who think like that, I think that's the equivalent of a woman thinking emotionally. Like, you know, that correlates to me, like how a woman would think emotionally. Like, so, like when you always hear the phrase, like, think with your big head and not your other head, or think with the head on your shoulders, and not the one down there. To me, that's the same as a woman thinking emotionally. And that's why, to me, a lot of men get caught in certain situations that they get caught in with. We might be different women, or it just might be a situation they find themselves in. It's because they thinking with the other head, and they not thinking like how they normally would think. They not thinking logically, basically. And that's one of our, I say men, that's like one of our biggest hurdles, or one of our main problems when it come to men. You know, that'll, that'll hurt man, like, you know, that one decision might hurt him for the rest of his life. You see what I'm saying? Just because he thinking like that. Also, I think men, we have a certain level of, and it's also due to the society that we in. Men have been conditioned, the same with women, but I can talk more from a man's perspective than a woman. Men have been conditioned from society's standpoint to, you can't be weak, you can't be you can't show emotions. So that goes into how men think, you know. That goes into how men think on a broader scale. Cause in society, especially the Western society, in the States, in America, we've been conditioned that if you show emotions, that's a feminine trait. and don't show emotions. So that goes into how you think. And I think men think the closest to, like, we almost there with robots, but men are very robotic. Like, they very mundane. Like, they not all the way there, and you can really see it in a lot of men. Like, they just not all the way there. They might as well be a robot. Like, bruh is not thinking. He done cut, because the society has told him to cut off all his emotions, because his emotions are linked to like a feminine trait or femininity. So he can't like show emotions or think emotionally. So he's kind of like robotic, like Terminator. You get what I'm like? He's like men are like the Terminator. Like, they look like they look human, but they not human. Like, he just like, I don't think a lot of men are thinking, and the ones who do think, I do think that they think very. It's thought put into it. It's thought, but it's not emotion. It's like two different things. Like, they're rational, but it's no emotion behind the thought. Like, that's why a lot of men succeed in business, because it's very cutthroat, because they have to learn to turn off their emotions in business and just deal with the business, and don't put their feelings involved, or don't get caught up emotionally in the business. Just keep it strictly business. Whereas women biological clock, every 30 days they're going through certain, like, a cycle almost every 30 days. So their emotions are high, low, high, low. So you're gonna get like more sporadic energy and thinking from women. Now, this is Nightcap, and I'm just gonna give you my honest opinion, to be totally truthful about the whole situation. Men and women think differently. M- my opinion, not to bring them into this conversation, because this is an adult men and women, and that's where we going with it. But in my opinion, children children ultimately think differently the most, and it's the best. Like, and what I'm trying to say is, like, children have this imaginate, they think differently, like imagination, to, like, it's almost kind of the best of kind of both worlds when it comes to men and women. And let me explain. So children have a very imagination out of this world, that when you get older you lose that imagination and you lose that creativity. Women are kind of closer to that because they're more emotional, so they can tap into the emotions and the creativity more than men, who as they go along through society, cut off their emotions and have to think, quote unquote, more logically. But children ultimately are the hybrid of men and women. Like, they think the best of me. Like, they have the most imagination, so they have the most, is like, emotions. I wouldn't say children think the best rationally. They think like kind of like the opposite of how a man or the masculine think, where men and masculine kind of think rationally. Children kind of think irrationally, but it's kind of ultimately works. I don't know why. It just works. Like a child will say something and wholeheartedly believe it, and you can't tell them nothing different. But that imagination is strong for the mind, and it's like their mind is very strong. Like they like a perfect example I say is children when they little, they always have an imaginary friend. They can talk to them, they can see them, they can listen to them. They know everything they saying right now, and it's like the way they think though. But that creativity and that imagination and to have that mental capacity, even though it's kind of irrational and kind of crazy that they talking to somebody who ain't here, but it's the same as if you was on the phone and you talking to somebody and they not here. They just in a mind, they talking to somebody. They have an imaginary friend. So it's like the creativity. It's like the rational but irrational, but it works. It's like children all the time have imaginary friends, and it's like you can't convince them that this person is not real. To the fact that you might have to start questioning yourself, like, is this person real? And that's why sometimes they say children can the imagination crosses over with the emotions, crosses over with the mental, and that ultimately leads to the spirituality. Like they might call it their imaginary friend whole time. They might be talking to a relative who not here physically, and they communicating with them, and their imaginary friend might be grandma or grandpa who not here no more. That's like talking to the child. They know everything about grandpa. Like, how would they know that about grandpa? Cause like that's their imaginary friend. So like children, not to like deviate and go off of the question, but children are the best to me when it comes to thinking differently. Like children, kids, they think like the best of both worlds. It's creativity. It's irrational, but it's rational because it works. Their mind is so strong that you can't convince them of certain things. Like once they think whatever a monster in their closet. Like they really think it's a monster in the closet. You can't convince them otherwise. But who's to say they wrong in the way they think? Because we think certain things that it's a lot of abstract concepts that we as human we agree to, but you know we agree to planets, and we agree in the solar system, and we agree, and nobody ever been to Mars yet. I mean, we sent the rover there and stuff but like nobody ever been to Pluto yet, and we still agree on these. Nobody been to these other solar systems and galaxies. We still agree that all that is out there. So who's to say how this child think? Who's to tell them otherwise? But to get back more, that's just my ultimate. But to get back more to the question, do men and women think differently? They do think differently. And I think that's what makes a man and kind of a woman, kind of how they think. Like that gives different perspectives. So it's good for everybody. Because if we all think alike, then we will all arrive to the same conclusions and answers. So when people think differently in general, it's always a good thing because you get to see it from different points of views. You know, you get to see it from how she think, how he think, and But yeah, this is my icebreaker, and you see, I got the ice I got the ice dragon on right now. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. But yeah, men and women do to me think differently, and it's like hot and cold. Where does cold stop? Where does hot start? Do we really know? So it's like two halves of the same equation to me. And I think when we, as a society as a whole, because like I said, with going back to the children, they like the best of both worlds. To me, the ultimate goal in the end is to ultimately not have men think like women and women think like men, but to see it from other people's perspective and put yourself in other people's shoes. So I think we need more men thinking more with their emotions. And it's the same on the other end. We need more women thinking more rationally. I think that makes a well-rounded person at the end of the day, when we have both sides not totally thinking like the other side, but putting themselves in the other person's shoes, or putting themselves in the other person's like driver's seat. So as men, what we can do, we can start to use more emotions when we think, and that'll help men see it the other way. Cause like I said, a lot of men are like robots. Like, these are the closest we gonna get to until the real robots come, and they on the way. Shout out Elon. You know what I'm saying? Like, shout out Elon. Shout out Tesla. Shout out all the robots, man. When we get the robots, but until then, men are the closest we have to robots. So as men, I feel like we can use more emotions when we think. We have to learn how to turn on our emotions, and not to think emotionally, but to use our emotions, and don't shy away because you have emotions. So sometimes you need to think like that. I'm not saying make decisions when you mad and stuff like that. I'm saying, okay, sit back and think about it, and ultimately think, and just don't be so rational about the situation. Like, how would that make that person feel? Or if I do this, how is that gonna make them feel? Or what that outcome gonna look like? And I could say the same thing goes for women. With women, women can be more logical in their decisions, more rational. You know, you can't always do what you want to do and think how you want to think just because you're an emotional creature. You got to learn how to sometimes, be like water almost, and like level off your emotions. So, but that's just my icebreaker though. Um, we gonna move it along to our next topic, or our next segment, and as we do that, I'm gonna pull up some things. So give me a quick second to pull this up. Why is this not pulling up, bro? Like, what's going on? Oh, okay. I know where I seen it at. I know where I seen it at. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Let me find it. Yeah, there we go. Right there. Okay, boom. I got it. All right. So, for my next section, I want to talk about Tyreek Hill and the short term and long term effects of marriage. So, if you don't know, Tyreek Hill is a football player. He plays for the Miami Dolphins. He's played with Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, won a Super Bowl with them. Um, One of the top wide receivers, if not the top wide receiver in the game. Um, when it's all said and done, he's probably going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Um, he's a top athlete in the NFL, a top player in the NFL. But Tyreek Hill and his ex-wife, because at this point she is his ex-wife, and his ex-wife Keita, and I believe her last name. And don't get mad at me if I if I mess it up. Keita Vaccaro, Keita Vaccaro, if I'm not mistaken. But they recently got divorced after a short marriage. They wasn't married for that long. They recently got divorced, and so the marriage was 17 months long. So I'm just gonna break it all down. So it's Tyreek Hill, his ex-wife Keita Vaccaro, the short-term and long-term effects of marriage. So I'm about to read this. I'm about to read this right quick, and I'll bring this back up. So Keita Vaccaro walks away from her 17-month marriage to NFL star Tyreek Hill with a massive divorce settlement. And this is from, I always like to give credit to my sources. So this is from Spiritual World. So y'all go check them out, Spiritual World. And it reads, NFL star Tyreek Hill is facing significant financial obligation following his 15-month marriage to Keita Vaccaro, who filed for divorce on April 7, 2025 after a reported assault incident at their Miami condo, though no crime was found. So keep that in mind. She filed for divorce April 7, 2025. She reported it was a reported assault incident at their Miami condo, but it was no crime was found, no criminal charges against Tyreek Hill. So I just want to put that out there. Court filings reveal Hill must pay Vaccaro 20 to 50,000 monthly in spending money, aka alimony. Basically, that's kind of what that is. 20 to 50,000 monthly in spending money, a 500,000 one-time payment, 457,517 for legal fees, and $100,000 for a new car. He also covers the mortgage, insurance, utilities, and internet for their $5.5 million waterfront condo, which Vaccaro has exclusively used, and health insurance for her and their 7-month-old daughter, Capri. These payments maintain the status quo during ongoing divorce proceedings, which involve disputes over spousal support and custody, with a potential multi-million dollar final settlement. He'll face additional demands from Vaccaro, such as access to his bank accounts, which were denied by the judge, who also reduced her requested legal fees. Hill's history include prior controversies such as a 2014 domestic violence incident, child abuse allegations in 2019, parental disputes, and a 2025 lawsuit from influencer Sophie Hall claiming he injured her during a backyard football scrimmage. And that was a lot. That was a lot I just read. That was a lot. That was a lot, bro. That was a lot. She taking him to the bank. She taking him, hey, she taking him to the laundromat. Cause Shotty is rinsing that money. You hear me? She taking him to the laundromat. Shotty is rinsing him. Rinsing them pockets right there. She bad. She bad. She bad. And I don't know all what they had going on. I don't know if it's true with the DV stuff. Well, I think that other stuff might already be in the past. So this is just some of the paperwork. She was asking. She was asking for. Right now, she asking for 50,000 monthly. Which, if you do the math on that, the $50,000 monthly, we do the math on that. That's half a million a year. She want half a million one time payment. Oh no, he already got to pay this. They said the court already he must pay this. So she getting 50,000 monthly, which let me go back. Let me go back. She renting him. She renting him. So and they was only married 17. They said 17 months in the article, or in the article they or yeah they got 15 months. So this was less than 2 years of marriage right here. So this is just showing you the short term and long term effects of marriage, and you really got to take it all in consideration when you get married. You just can't jump the broom. Now they did have a child together, so that adds another layer to it because she's asking for spousal support to raise her and their daughter. And I believe Tyreek Hill just signed a contract, or his contract about to be up, but I think he's supposed to make around 20 to 30 million this year. And all time, I believe he's made over $100 million through his contracts, throughout all his contracts so far. But I believe last year he made like 25 million, and he's gonna make somewhere between 25 and 30 million this year, or he made like 30 million last year, and he gonna make around 25 million this year. But I know altogether Tyreek has made over 100 million. It's well over 100 million. It's probably closer to probably like 150 million he's made, and he still has a couple of more years in him too. I want to say Tyreek might be like 30. He might be like 30, something like that. So he probably got another 4 to 5 years left in the league. So he's gonna get another contract. I believe his contract he has right now is up. So, but she is renting him, and I ain't saying she don't deserve it. I ain't saying she don't deserve it. I don't know the situation like that. I'm just, you know, it hit the news, so we just report what's going on. Everything relationships, nightcap, we here. Um, but yeah, so some of the short term and long term effects of marriage. So I would say a short term effect of marriage, when you just rush to get married, you can see how it just financially we not even getting into the emotional aspect of marriage. We're not even getting into the family dynamic because they have a child together. So I don't want to talk too much because I don't like to talk too much about people when they got children and children are involved. I try to stick with the parents or stick more on the relationship side, but that's a whole nother topic. So this is just the financial short-term effects of marriage, not including the emotional and mental effects that it's having on both of them, just being people, and not including the family dynamic included in their with their daughter. I believe Tyreek has more kids. I don't know if he has more kids with her, but I know that they mentioned they do have one daughter together. So not to mention the family dynamic when it comes to the whole situation with them, you know. Um, but yeah, 500,000. Again, I'm gonna read some more of it. 500,000. He got to pay her 50,000 monthly, so that's 500,000 a year. He got to upfront pay 500,000 one time payment. 500,000 for legal fees, and I believe she has some more legal fees that she's trying to make him pay. Another like I think 500,000. So I think altogether, right now they say he got to pay a hat like for what is 457,000, but I believe she's trying to get him to pay for the other like 500,000. This is crazy. Like I said, he got money, but you know, 500,000 over here, 500,000 over there. This stuff adds, we talking 1 million in legal fees. We talking um 500,000 a year into so many years. She's still gonna come back and hit him, of course, with the child support payments. That could be, you know, 40,000 a month, 30,000 a month for one. Um, I will say his history does play a part in all this, as they said down here. With Tyreek. Hold on, if I can. As they said down here with Tyreek, he has he has a 2014 DV incident. I don't know if he was guilty or not guilty in that. We just reporting on it. He has child abuse allegations 2019. Like I said, he has Tyreek got a couple of kids out there. Um he got one or two lawsuits out there. You know what I mean? So this is, I believe also they might have footage of the incident that led to her wanting to get a divorce. I believe they was they was arguing in his Miami condo. I believe they got footage of that. I'm not, but you know, just some of the short term effects of marriage is so. Like I said, financial obligations. Not to say he don't have the money, but who wants to give lawyers 1 million of their hard? He worked hard for this money. You know, he sacrificed a lot to make it to the NFL, and he sacrificed a lot to get to where he's at. So I don't think he just wants to throw his money away. A lot of people had mixed feelings about this. Um, so again, he has to cover the mortgage, their insurance, the utilities, and the internet for their $5.5 million waterfront property in Miami. So he basically got to pay all the bills there, and the judge basically said she can stay there until they figure out what's going on with that house. Like, is she gonna get it? He gonna get it? They gonna sell it and split the money, or? But until then, the judge basically said he has to keep paying all the bills there while she continues to live there while they just going through divorce. So this is just some of the other side of divorce. this is just some of the other side of divorce. And it's you just really got to be mindful when you're getting married, and it's really a big step. And ultimately, you really got to think about who you marrying, why you marrying, and if y'all ever were to get a divorce, how would that look? And people don't want to think like that, but you got to think like that, because at the end of the day, marriage is a business. It is a business at the end of the day. So you got to kind of use your business mindset. You got to use your business mind when you getting married. And how I was saying earlier, as men, sometimes, we think rationally, but like when you think, okay, so marriage is a business, but that's when I was saying earlier, like men need to start learning how to think more with their emotions. Like when you're thinking about getting married, so think about all the emotions that goes along with it. Cause I know he feeling it. He feeling it from every which way right now. On top of the NFL season is coming up in about a couple of weeks. He got to go out here and go on the field and still perform at a high level with all this going on in his personal life. So just think about that as a top athlete, as a this being his career. He got to put all this to the side while he going through all these legal battles, and he going through all these legal woes and all these divorce settlements. He still got to go out there every Sunday and ball. Still got to go out there, because if you stop doing that, the money gonna stop coming in. How you gonna pay for all these $1 million lawyers? And that's just her lawyers. He got to pay for his lawyers. He got to look for another house to live in, because he can't stay there, but he still got to pay all them bills. He got to think about not seeing his daughter now maybe not on a daily basis like that, because I don't know how the custody battle is gonna work out with the child. So not seeing his daughter on a daily basis now might affect his play on the field, his mentality. So these are just some of the long-term effects of marriage. Life after the honeymoon phase. The honeymoon phase ended. It ended quick for them, as you can see. The honeymoon phase didn't last a year for them. So you really got to think about all this when you get married. As a man, was a prenup on the table? Was that on the table? Or did he think I don't need one? You know. And this is just really the start, because this could, the longer it go on, the more because he's the breadwinner. So the longer this goes on, Tyreek ultimately gonna have to pay. You know what I'm saying? Tyreek's gonna have to pay for all this in the end. And you know, this whole divorce could cost him multi-millions. Not to say he don't got it, but at the end of the day, I'd rather my multi-millions in the bank than in somebody else's hands. I'd rather my millions in my personal bank account than it to go to the divorce lawyers, and I gotta buy another property, and you know the whole situation is just you know the whole situation is just I don't know like how it got to this point. Us in the public, we just now seeing it is at this point. So I say my top three things, short term effects of marriage. I say number one, financially. Know what you getting into when you get married. Marriage is a business and marriage do cost. It costs for a wedding. It costs for an engagement ring. It costs for a honeymoon. It costs to raise a family. It costs to have a significant other, wife, husband, whatever title you want to put on them. I just say significant other at this point. All that costs. So I say the short term effects of marriage is financial obligations, and you got to be willing to pay the financial cost if it comes down to it. My second my second short term effects of marriage, I would say the mental emotional aspect of it. Not even talking about the money right now. Just the mental emotional aspect of it. I know it has to be draining on them. You know what I'm saying? The mental emotional aspect on it, I know it has to be draining for him and for her. She probably never thought she was gonna get divorced so fast too either. She never thought, I believe she filed for the divorce. So she probably didn't think she was gonna file for the divorce in less than 15 months or 17, 18 months, however long. It was less than 2 years. She probably didn't think that when she got married, when she said I do. So another short term effect of marriage, I would say is the mental emotional aspect of it. Like to have the mental capacity to go through marriage, to, to deal with somebody on a daily basis for the rest of your life, and to have the emotional aspect of it, because it's draining emotionally for her too. Whether he paying for everything or not, she still got to go to court every day, along with having the newborn, along with having their daughter, taking care of their daughter and raising her. It's a lot on her too. Even though she not on the field playing, she gotta they might sell that house. She gotta relocate, look for another house. It's a lot. Just cause you got money, you can't throw money don't solve all problems. It solves 99% of them. But that 1% though, you gotta account for. I take that back. It solved 90% of them. It solved 90%. But that 10%, that's the emotional aspect of it. So she still has to deal with that. So I would say that's another short term effect. And then I would say my third one, short term effects of marriage, is the family dynamic, especially when the child's involved. Children, kids, however you want to say it. When they evolve, I say that's my third short term effect of marriage. The family dynamic aspect of it all. She probably thought her daughter was gonna have two-parent household growing up. The daughter still might have a two-parent household. It's just not with. It don't look like it's gonna be with her biological father and mother now. It still might be a two-parent household because the Kita Vaccaro, the ex-wife, could still get remarried, and yeah, so she can still grow up in a two-parent household, but it's not the two-parent household that your biological mother and father and is not that. Why have kids if y'all not gonna raise them together? So the family dynamic was a big thing because they had the daughter in the whole situation too. The long term effects of marriage, I would say one, both of them now probably got trust issues for the rest of their life. They're gonna have a hard time getting married again because they probably going through this whole, he just seen how Shawty just took him to the cleaners, just rinsed him. Yeah, just that was the wrong sound effect for that, but I don't know how you do the rinsing sound effect. But yeah, Shawty just rinsed him, took him to the cleaners, took him to the laundromat. She just washed that money. So one of the long term effects he's gonna have is trust issue. To me, at least, like he's probably never gonna want to go through this marriage again after all it done cost him. So a long term effect for him, I would say trust issue would be one of the long term effects of marriage. Another long term effect of marriage, going back to the family dynamics. So now, what is that setting the kids up? So my second long term effect is like repeating the cycle with the offsprings. I would say that's my second long term effects of marriage. Repeating, them going through what they going through, and of course they child is young, so she can't understand it. But when she get older, and as they talk to her more about what happened when she was a baby and what they was going through and stuff, so just the children repeating the cycle, I would say, is my second long term effect. Trust issue would be number one. I would say your offsprings repeating the cycle of the parents would be my second long term effect. So now the children might not want to get married, or they might shy away from marriage, or they see it didn't work out with their parents, so why would they try it? So I would say that would be another long term effects of marriage. And the third long term effect I would say would be just in general the public perception. So now the like just all this playing out in the media, in the news, you trying to the public perception. Now you letting a lot of people into your personal lives and what was going on, and things could get worse and stuff might come out because when you go into divorce and you trying to get certain stuff, you might talk about this or tell that. And so I would just say the public perception now, what we think and what we see and how we see you and how it has changed. We might not never look at Tyreek the same. Some people might say, yeah, he's a good athlete, but look at all the trouble off the field stuff that happened with him. She might come out and say some things, some DV stuff. You get what I'm saying? And now his legacy is basically tarnished. That's what I'm trying to get at. Like that's another long term effect. Your legacy being tarnished. So my first one was the long term effect was the kids repeating the cycle, your legacy being tarnished. I forgot the third one, but yeah, I can't think of the other one right now. But those are some long term effects of marriage. But yeah, as always, thank everybody for all the support. Like, share, comment, subscribe. It's free. It always helps the content go a long way. You know, like a piece of the content, share a piece of the content, leave a comment, and subscribe to everything NiteCap ATL. And before we get out of here, y'all know I gotta play my tune. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Nightcap. We here every Tuesday night to talk about everything relationships. I am your host, B Rich. I do appreciate y'all tuning in, and thank you for all the support. And we'll see you back here next week. Enjoy the rest of your evening or the rest of your day.